Since 2008, I've run over 5,000 events and hosted well over 1 million people. This podcast is for event planners and marketers and the industry's brightest minds. My name is Nick Field. This is the Professional Partier. You can follow me at Nicholas John Field on all your major social networks. How did I go from a young kid in Toronto to selling millions of dollars in party tickets? This episode, I actually outlined my origin story and some of the major parties that I threw throughout my life and how my career evolved. I'll talk about the days of being a rebel and then the first time that I was in high school that I earned my first several $1,000s from throwing parties. I'll talk about the main skills that I learned that took my career from just being another guy to taking it to the next level and some of the things that you can do to take your career to the next level, especially if you're just starting. If you find this interesting, there's only one way for this to grow. If you subscribe and if you give us a good rating, then that would be extremely helpful. So please, if you do enjoy this and you find this useful, please subscribe, please rate us, and maybe forward this to a friend who might be interested. Enjoy. Hey, I'm Nick. Welcome to the Professional Partier podcast. What's up? My name is Nick, and welcome to the Professional Partier podcast, where we showcase everything entertainment. And our mission is to enhance the entertainment industry. So I'm here once again with my guest, Danny Lynch. Actually, I guess I'm the guest today, right now.
You are the guest.
Yeah.
Enhance.
So I just asked him to ask me a couple questions. So, Danny, what do you got for me, brother?
Well, first and foremost, man, the Professional Partier.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the reasoning behind that name and why are you a professional partier?
Yeah. Okay. So to be honest, I remember the first time that I realized that I was a bit of a partier. Okay. I've always been a class clown. Like, this has been the case since I was in kindergarten. And I remember watching a cartoon when I was young, and it was showcasing off this partier, this like teenage partier kid who's kind of supposed to be the villain of this afternoon special. And I connected with this villain.
What was the cartoon?
I'm not going to say because it was.
You're not trying to show your age?
Well, okay. To be honest, it was kind of like it was like an anti-drug thing.
Okay.
And I thought that the kid using drugs was cool. I don't think using drugs is cool. That's not what I'm saying. But it was like,
I get it.
but he was a partier. Okay. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Partying is cool. And then this was like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So
okay.
This
is embedded in you.
Yeah.
It's like DNA at this point.
Yeah, a little bit. So it was this special that had like Alvin and the Chipmunks, and it had Bugs Bunny, and it had a whole bunch of random.
Oh, so total
you can
relatable.
You can find it on YouTube. It's there.
So we'll talk about it off camera.
Yeah. So anyway, I have had it in my blood, and like I did start partying. I always threw parties when I was young. My first badass party that I ever threw was my 5th birthday, and I have a VHS video of this, and I haven't watched it in probably 25 years.
I would love it. We could just like throw that up.
Yeah,
That'd be so sick.
So I had all these people over for this birthday party when I was 5 years old, and then my mom organized a trip to the Mad Hatter, and the Mad Hatter was it was a spot in Toronto that you take your kids for a birthday party, and we got picked up in a limousine, like me and my 5-year-old friends.
This is 5th grade.
No, 5 years old.
Oh, 5 years old. Okay.
We got picked up in a limousine, and we got taken to the Mad Hatter. And at the Mad Hatter, we like had pillow fights. We had food fights. Like it was like the craziest place. For those like you can Google.
Is this still a thing?
No, it's not. If you Google the Mad Hatter Toronto, it's pretty badass. Like, it was like the spot back in the 80s. And so there was that. And then my grade 2 birthday party was pretty rowdy. So it was like one of the first birthday parties where boys and girls were invited. And my teachers came to my my grade 2 birthday party. And all the boys got to sleep over. So there was the girls stayed until like sundown or something, and we would play like horses, knights, and cavaliers, which is like, you know how to play that?
No, what is that?
It's like you stand in a line, and then someone's like horses, and then the guy and the girl need to. The guy gets down like a horse, and then the girl hops on top of him. Cavaliers, the guy has to pick up the girl. Knights, then guy goes on one knee and the girl sits on it, and so it's
It
like
sounds like a game we can't play anymore.
yeah, it's
That's what it sounds like.
For being in grade 2, like it was like
I mean,
it was edgy.
Yeah, no, it was edgy.
edgy.
It was edgy. But I was
So-
like, this doesn't sound like something we could do anymore.
Yeah, so
Horses and cavaliers.
yeah, horses.
Bring back horse. Hashtag
horses,
bring back horses
knights,
and cavaliers.
Horses, knights, and cavaliers. Yeah.
Horses, knights, and
So,
cavaliers.
so all the boys slept over,
Okay.
and I actually pulled an all nighter in.
Oh.
Yeah, literally, sun came
Wow.
up
You
in
were
grade
like,
2.
what, like 7?
We watched Arachnophobia, which is like a dope movie from 1990. Like, yeah, it was good times. Anyway, and then so as my life kind of progressed and continued, I kept throwing kind of cool parties. Like I'd always have good birthday parties. The next most significant party that I threw was like I always had parties like grade 6, 7, 8, but in grade 9 I threw a Halloween party. And I asked my parents, I'm like, hey, can I throw a Halloween party? And they're like, okay, how many people are going to come? I'm like, 50? And they're like, okay. So
They were down.
Yeah. So my mom was super cool.
Well, from my understanding, your mom was like the catalyst to your like
yeah.
party
Yeah.
career, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. I get a lot of it from my mom.
Yeah.
So, so I remember I was preparing my basement for this party.
Okay.
My first friend showed up, and like hours early. Like he was way early, but he was a buddy of mine. He'd been to my house before, not a big deal. But he showed up literally with a grocery bag full of toilet paper and a grocery bag full of eggs. And
It's that kind of party.
yeah, and so he knocks on my door, and my mom opens the door and like sends him downstairs. And then she calls me upstairs, and she's like, Nicholas, what is he doing with all this? I like played it off and chilled it out. So that toilet paper went all over the neighborhood. The egg, I'll get back to the egg. So that party, my parents were there. My parents had some friends over, it went from 50 people to 100 people to 200 people to 300 people to about 450 people, and it was really rowdy. And of course, it spilled out. Like, it wasn't just my house at this point. It was like all over my front yard, all over my backyard. My basement was filled. Then the toilet paper went all over the neighborhood. But the most like significant thing that happened, this was really rowdy. So somebody took one of those eggs and threw it at a car that was driving by. We were on like a moderately busy street, the Kingsway in Toronto, and threw it at a car. And word is that it went in the guy's car. I don't know if that's true, but the guy pulls over, and it was like a big built guy, like not somebody that you really want to start messing with.
Yeah, for sure.
And he comes out and he barges into my house, like right into my living room.
So he barrels through all the people in the front yard and just goes through the front door.
Right into the house, and starts screaming. And like my mom and dad, my grandparents were there, like family, friends, and like it was just a mess. So we get rid of him anyway. So there was that party. Shortly after, there was that incident, and then I got in some serious trouble in high school, and I was grounded. I was grounded for a year.
Whatever happened in grounding people?
Yeah, no, I was grounded. I was grounded for a year.
That's not a thing anymore.
And like, yeah, I never got grounded before, but it was like, my life could have gone down a bad path. Yeah. And so my mom and dad, they put me on like lockdown. So they would drive me to school 5 minutes before the bell, and then they would pick me up at lunchtime and then drop me off again 5 minutes before the bell, and then they'd pick me up right after school. And then I had to do homework with my dad for like 2 hours. My grades got really good.
You were like on parole.
Yeah, it was serious.
Like with your parents.
Yeah, it was serious. And then and I was like that for like a year.
No way.
And
what happened to your like social life at that point?
Yeah, I went to zero.
Zilch.
Went to zero.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
14.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you got a couple more years left.
Yeah. So the next year, so we had like I don't know what you call them in the States, but it's like in Canada they're called semi-formals. It's like it's not the prom, but it's like a halfway.
Yeah, they're called formals.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So well, the formal was like the prom, but like you'd have a halfway, and that was really only for like the seniors. But the halfway one at the beginning of the year, they called the semi-formal, and like you show up in a suit, not necessarily a tux, but like show up in a suit, and everybody's on this. And they would always have a pre-party to the semi-formal, and it was always at somebody's house, and somebody always had beer for the kids. So I was sitting in math class, and they're like, "Who's going to throw the semi-formal pre-party? Who's going to throw the semi-formal pre-party?" And everyone's like, "Nick, your Halloween party last year was
no way, they brought it back."
and I'm like, my dad just dropped me off like 5 minutes ago, and is like still
and
mad
this is
about
after
that
your
party.
like your parole.
This is a year later. I was still in a lot of trouble, and then but I thought about it. I'm like, this could be cool. So I remember I pulled my mom aside after school, and I'm like, "Mom, so I was in math class today, and all the kids, they want me to throw the pre-party to the semi-formal," and she was like, "Absolutely not, Nicholas. No way. We're not going to do that." I was like, "Well, hear me out. Okay, so yes, we need to give the kids alcohol, which is illegal. And yes, we will have about 200 kids at our house. But as soon as they drink, we pick them up in limousines, and then we take them away. And then the party's over, and that'll be done at like 8 o'clock.
That's how you reasoned it there?
Yeah. And she's like, she thought about it for a second, and then was like,
The problem goes away.
yeah. And then she thought about it for a second. And my mom and I went to the same high school. And she's like, "Nicholas, if we're going to do it, we're doing it my way." And I was like, "Yeah, right. Okay, sweet." So sold. And then, but yeah, so we planned this pre-party, and it was legit. We invested maybe like $800, no, over $1,000 into it. So we got a wedding tent.
Okay.
And we had Christmas lights and everything all over the place. We had pumpkins, we had hors d'oeuvres, we had non-alcoholic food, and then we got a couple kegs. So we spent I think we got 4 kegs. Maybe it was only 2 actually. It was only 2 kegs. And everybody that came had to pay $20 on entry, and then they could drink for free and drink beer for free. And it went off exactly how we planned.
Sounds like it was a come up almost.
Yeah, so we grossed like $4,000 on it. I ended up like maybe showing my parents that we grossed like $1,800 because they of course wanted all the money. But I managed to skim a little bit off the top for myself. But
dirty dog.
But yeah, we grossed like $4,000 on it. It was like very profitable. And it went off super well, and that was
no
it. No problems. No, it was really good.
Limousines, everybody's out the house.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Nobody got wasted drunk. Like everybody was in suits. You know,
clean up after. And
like the girls, they go and they get their like $200 hair stuff done, right? So everybody looks good, and it went really well. And throughout high school, I kept doing that, and then I was elected to be the social convener in high school. So so like the person who plans the dances and all the social events. And I was elected to do that in high school. So I ended up profiting from school dances as well, which definitely wasn't supposed to do, but I did. And because like we were selling tickets to these events, right? And like there was no tracking of that stuff as far as like the school went. Schools are not organized on that stuff.
Cool.
So it's not like I was like, thieving, but I guess it was like you know, there was
You got yours.
There was
You got
there was
yours, is what
slippage.
it
There was
was.
slippage, or
There was a spill tab or two.
or I'd be like, you know, hook up a couple PlayStation games. I'll give you a couple dance tickets, like, you know, that type of stuff, right? So, I did that, and then continued to throw my own parties. And I went to a lot of bars and nightclubs when I was underage. I had a fake ID at like 13. Wouldn't always work, but it did work a lot. And the rave culture was pretty big in Toronto in the late 90s. And I dabbled a little bit in that, which is cool. And so, you know, lots of parties, usually like underground parties that would take place at warehouses. And then they kind of moved into the clubs and stuff like that. But some really, really cool parties, really good music. And then I went to college. And in college, once again,
Where'd you go to school?
I went to York University in Toronto.
Oh, okay.
And for anthropology.
The fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, right. But I was elected as basically like the social convener in college, and for this like the same position, but you do like college dances, which it was a little bit more organized, and I'd have to throw a lot of different weird events and stuff like that, but yeah, that was cool. And then I was like, you know, I really liked drinking, I liked partying and staying up late, and I always did it. And then I traveled. I was working in Australia. I was living in Gold Coast at the time. Yeah. So
why? Like,
well,
why'd you go to Australia?
I was a computer nerd for the majority of my life, and then I decided that I wanted to travel the world. I worked at Canada's version of MTV, which was Much Music. I worked there for 8 years.
Much Music.
Yeah.
They
From when I was
really
Much
tried with that name.
Much
huh?
Music. No, Much Music was dope. But
So was MTV.
yeah, Much Music was. No, I'm not gonna go there. But but yeah. So I had this like cool job, and you know I was around a lot of musical artists and stuff like that, and I sometimes got a couple minutes on TV, and sometimes I got like the ability to interview some artists and like TV celebrities and stuff like that. So that was cool. But I did it for 8 years. I started working there when I was like 16 or like 15 as a co-op student, and then they hired me part-time, full-time throughout college. I worked full-time after I graduated, and then I was just like, whoa, I've been here for 8 years and I'm 24 years old. Like, well, like I need to do something. And I decided that I was going to travel, so I moved to Australia. And then I went to Southeast Asia and spent a bunch of time in Southeast Asia. But yeah, I lived in Australia, and for the majority of my time in Australia, I lived in Sydney, I lived in Gold Coast, and I lived in Darwin. But the majority of my time in Australia, I did live in Surfers Paradise, Gold Coast, which is an awesome, awesome city. I missed it a lot. Like, I'm excited to go check it out again. And I worked in a club for a little bit as a glassy, you know, basically a barback. Yeah. And then I started working sales because I was broke and my friends were making killer money in sales. And I was trying to do some like web work. It wasn't working out. I ended up selling horse racing tips over the phone for $25,000. Complicated, hard, but learned sales. That's yeah. So
Sounds rough.
But I didn't like it. I didn't love doing that job. So I wanted to. I was walking, you know, in this mall, and I'd walk in this mall almost every day, and people would try and sell me a club crawl when I was walking in this mall, and I was like, I want to work for these guys. These are my people. These guys are they're just my people. Like, they're selling club crawls. They look like travelers. I'm a traveler. They're my age. They party all the time. Like, I want to do that. So I started hitting up the owner of that company. I'm like, hey, you know, can I work for you as sales? Can I work for you as sales? I got ignored for a long time, and then I finally got the job and went and shadowed a guy, made some good money doing that. Then started leading those crawls, and then and then did super well, and then, you know, wrapped up my time in Australia, moved back to Toronto. Didn't want to live there anymore, so I almost moved to San Francisco. I almost moved to Tahoe. But when I was in Tahoe visiting there, I saw the Olympic rings and was like, Tahoe had the Olympics in like the 70s or 68 or something like that. Whistler in Canada is about to have the Olympics. So I'm like, I think I want to go there. I almost moved to New Zealand, but I'm like, I want to move to Whistler. So I pack up and I moved to Whistler, and I was a ski and snowboard instructor out there, and I lived in staff housing. Staff housing in Whistler is like college, but people are not in college.
Bunks and all that.
People are not in college. They're like 4 years older. Everyone's like in their early 20s, not like they're not 18. Yeah. They've already like lived a little bit of life. They don't have to go to school. They just have to go be a ski instructor or go be like a lift operator or like a bartender behind a lodge bar or something like that. And everybody is away from home, and we're all crammed into these areas. It is party central. Like it is nonstop partying all the time. And when I first got to Whistler, like I remember just walking around, I met people like right away, and they took me to, they don't run them anymore, but there were full moon parties that were operating in Whistler, where they would be like raves out in the bush. Like literally, like you have to drive on the dirt road, you have to walk 10 minutes, and then there would be like amazing DJs out there, Canton and DJ Fro, and like they were badass music out there. Mike Greffner, rest in peace. And like, so these guys would have these parties out there. Whistler was just a party. It was just party. Like I loved it. And there's a good bar scene in Whistler. There's a good club scene in Whistler. There's small clubs like this, where I am right now, Raised by Wolves, the bar that I own, would kind of pass as like a semi nightclub in Whistler. They're a little bit bigger than this, but not much. And so I'd go out all the time. I'd go out with my friends, party in staff housing, and I am an ambitious guy, and I thought like it didn't take me long to realize that this town could sustain a club crawl. So the club crawls that I was doing in Gold Coast, Australia, and the ones that I've operated since, for them to be the model that I was following. So anyway, I opened up a club crawl, but the model that I was following was like, it needs to be a tourist destination, and it needs to have a centralized concentration of tourists. You need to be able to walk outside and be like, 9 out of the 10 people that I'm looking at right now are definitely tourists, and Whistler has that. And so when you have that situation and you have bars and clubs that are walking distance from one another, then you can sell these club crawls like to tourists. And you just go up and you're like, hey, welcome to Whistler. We have a badass party. It's a club crawl. We'll take you to 4 or 5 spots. We'll get you food, drinks, no line, no cover. And then I started doing that, and I'd go out and I'd use my sales skills, and I'd walk up to people and be like, hey man, what are your party plans for tonight? And they're like, I don't know. And then at the end of that conversation, I'd sell them a $50 ticket. And I ran that, and I remember that was in 2009 that I started doing that. And the newspaper there, the Peak, they wrote an article about me, and they called me the Professional Partier. I think it was in the headline, the Professional Partier.
Oh, that's cool. Do you have that clipping?
I do. I do have it somewhere. So that's how I kind of formed. Like originally, like, obviously I've got a background in partying from my life.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But
we all.
But yeah, so then the club crawl grew. I expanded it down from Whistler. I was going to move to Niagara Falls and open up my second one in Niagara Falls, but it was like I was looking at Vegas. I'm like, well, Vegas is like the spot, right? So if I open up Niagara Falls, then it's just a matter of time before I go do Vegas. So I thought, okay, let's just go do Vegas. And I was scouting it. I brought on a business partner who I was working with with Whistler Club Crawl. Excuse me. And then I went down to Vegas in 2011 and launched, and we did well. We started doing like, a couple tickets, and then a couple $1 million worth of tickets, and yeah, the rest is history, really. So opened up in LA, San Diego, Miami. Then I really wanted to focus on Vegas. As time went by, 2016, I had a daughter, my first daughter, and then I think that like during that time, I partied a lot. Like, and when I say party, I mean, of course, like going out and stuff like that. Party does not mean drinking, but I was drinking a lot. And in 2016, after I had my daughter, I decided that I wanted to put alcohol behind me for good, or at least until she's 18. At least until my youngest daughter is 18. Like that was kind of the.
So you have two.
Yeah, I have two now. So, yeah, I wanted to put alcohol behind me. So in 2016, a couple months after my daughter was born, I decided that like I've had enough of alcohol for a while. And yeah, so I haven't had a drink since then. It's like we're late. I guess I'm coming up on 7 years, I think. Yeah.
That would be like what, November?
Yeah, November.
Yeah, November will be 7 years.
7
Why
years.
do I know that? As we talk all the time.
Yeah. So, you know, I still party? Like, I do a little bit. It's different.
Just not in the libation sense.
Yeah. Like the thing is right now, at this point in my life, I get up early and I go to bed early. So it's more challenging for nighttime parties, but like you can put me in a bar at any time and it's like it's cool. Like I can kill several hours in a bar if I'm not stressing over work or anything like that, which I tend to do a lot. But it's, you know, it's giving me perspective on, you know, like this is an industry, right? Like, and to party does not mean to drink alcohol. To party means like the gathering of people together, food and drinks, and entertainment. Food, drinks, entertainment, and people. That is what makes a party. And if you can put those elements together and you can make it work, like you don't need alcohol.
Yep,
like
of course.
It's just So staying up late should probably be like on that list of what a party is, but of course there's a lot of really good daytime parties, and like, you know, I consider a lot of things to be parties. Like I go to business conferences and like those are parties, man. Like they are. Like, sure, somebody will go up on stage and start talking about business, but everybody is there. Like the reason that people go to these like conferences is for the party aspect of it. It's for the networking aspect of it. And I think that networking is tied in pretty closely to party.
Yeah, I would say so for sure. 100%.
What partying is,
Yeah.
And you can't have a conference without like food and entertainment. Like the entertainment at conferences is like education, because you know, for the most part that's yes, there's definitely education to it, but for most people, education is entertainment. Like, you know, people learn because it's entertaining to them. They like to learn more.
Yeah.
So I will use like education and entertainment a little bit synonymously because that's the way I see it. So I think that, you know, the party aspect is it's not just tied to alcohol. It's tied over anything that brings together entertainment, food and drink, and people. Yep. And so
this is a party right here.
Yeah.
This is our party, man.
Yeah. I'm down. I do want to like, you know, when putting together this podcast, I want to have I want to talk about like what makes good parties. I want to talk about like what people can do to enhance the industry. And that goes like across quite a few industries. Like I see the way people behave in bars professionally is will enhance the industry. The type of entertainment that comes, it will enhance the industry. The way that we can get people together to socialize when they're, you know, not just necessarily stick them in the room, but have the entertainment and the food and drink kind of put it all together so that people are getting to know one another better. Like that enhances the industry. On the food and drink side of things, like, you know, even running a restaurant is, you're running a party every night, and like the way that you present your food is, if that can get better, then that's an enhancement of the party that you're throwing. If a DJ can learn how to read a room better, it's enhancing it. So I think that you know, I want to cover a lot of these topics. I want to talk to people about that, find out how people can get better at making the industry better. Obviously, I'm a big business guy. Like I've got a handful of businesses. I love talking about business. I love thinking about how you can deliver value to customers, but you can also make money doing it. So tie that all in together in a podcast, and that's kind of the idea of the Professional Partier.
I dig it. I'm here for the long haul.
All right, on.
I'll subscribe.
Cool, man. All right, yeah, that's I think that's all I really got to say right now. But yeah, man, if you're interested in what I got, just give us a follow. Subscribe to our podcast and check it out. We'll be releasing episodes regularly. So,
Right on. Cheers. Thanks everyone for chiming in. And if I don't see you guys following, I'll find you.
Thanks.